like to introduce the administrators who are here. First, Dominic D'Angelo, Booty Junior High School. Mr. D'Angelo had a very successful business career, 17 years, but he wanted to give something back. Became a teacher, then he entered the Leadership Academy, became a principal at Booty Junior High School. Booty Junior High School was a disaster area before he got there. In fact, in the 4 years prior to his getting there, they had 3 principals. The faculty at Booty had a pool to determine how long he was going to last. 7 years later, Booty is recognized as one of the top schools in the city. 7 years, because he works with his faculty. Enrollment at Booty has gone from 800 and change to over 1,300. 20% increase each of the last 3 years. And he's got the plans into the Department of Education to make it a junior, senior high school. Mr. D'Angelo. I forgot one other thing. Mr. D'Angelo has hired about 20 of our graduates. They're all working at Booty. That makes up about 25% of the Booty staff. Pretty impressive, I would say. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Anthony Armstrong. He is the principal at Nathaniel Hawthorne School, Middle School in Queens. And he was assistant principal there for 7 years, and since 2010, he's been the principal. I presented to his PTA last year, and I had the opportunity to talk to some of his faculty and also to some of his parents. Across the board, they said what a wonderful leader he was. People break down doors to get to his school because of his leadership. He's an excellent listener and an excellent leader. More importantly, when I went to the school several times during the course of school days, I was amazed at how happy everybody in the school was. The kids are skipping down the halls, so are the faculty. It's a very positive environment, and that's what it takes. And what we want for all of you when you become teachers is that you work in an environment exactly like that. Next is Mr. Brian Anello, the assistant principal at Nathaniel Hawthorne. From all accounts that I've heard, he does an excellent job as well under the leadership of Mr. Armstrong. Next is Mr. Marcus Bouch. Mr. Bouch graduated from St. Francis College in 1995. I had the pleasure of meeting him about 3 or 4 years ago. He was a principal at, was it MS 126? MS 126 in Williamsburg. And he turned that school around with his leadership. Faculty members speak about him in glowing terms. Again, he's a democratic leader, incredible personality. Any decision he makes is based on what's best for his students. And that's the way it has to be in an effective school. Mr. Marcus Bouch. Last and certainly not least is Mrs. McGoldrick. Mrs. McGoldrick and I went to the same high school, Christ the King. And she never misses the opportunity to let me know that I'm older than she is. Thank you, Mrs. McGoldrick. She was a principal for 10 years at Our Lady of the Cenacle in Richmond Hill, turned that school around, and now she's principal at Holy Angels in Bay Ridge. She's been there for the last seven years, doing an incredible job. Again, I've spoken to her faculty individually. In fact, several of our students, one who graduated last year, Rosemary Patrizzo, is working at Holy Angels, and Christy Bacardi, who's here tonight, still a student at St. Francis, is running the art program on Fridays at Holy Angels. All of these people up front are quality educators, but more importantly, they're quality people. The reality is that 15% of all teachers leave the profession in the first year. 46% of all teachers leave the profession within 5 years. They don't leave because they're down on the profession. They leave because they're down on the principal who's running that school. They're just in the wrong place. My personal hope for every one of you is that you get the opportunity to work with outstanding leaders like this. That's our hope, and that's one of our purposes tonight, to get into your heads their insights. So without any further ado, what I'd like to do is ask each of the principals to just make an opening statement. Then once they're done, we'll get to any of the questions that you have, okay? Who wants to go first?
Ladies first. We'll start with Ms. McGoldrick.
Ms. McGoldrick.
Okay, since I'm the only representative of Catholic school, I'll give you a little bit of background and a little bit of some of the changes. My school's in Bay Ridge, so we're part of the Diocese of Brooklyn. And throughout the years, most Catholic schools were parish schools. You're very young, but you might remember a number of years ago, many Catholic schools closing in the Diocese of Brooklyn. So the diocese did a lot of research to try to find out how to stop this problem. And the idea they came up with, it was called Preserving the Vision under Bishop Caggiano, was to have parish schools become academies. And there was a lot of misrepresentation of that and a lot of misunderstanding. An academy is still a Catholic school, but it is not just affiliated with one parish in some instances. And instead of the pastor being in charge, the pastor became a priest. Running a school is a business. So the pastor is not necessarily the best person to run a school. So in preserving the vision, in forming Catholic elementary schools into academies, the purpose was to try to have longevity for Catholic education at that level by putting in place a board. So I have a great relationship with my pastor, but he is not my boss. So we can just be friends, we can commiserate, we can share ideas, we can work together. But I am employed or hired by the board of directors. So I was there 1 year before we became an academy. I don't want to be too lengthy now, but if you have questions later, I'll be happy to answer them. And so I work for a very impressive board. On my board is a politician, a lawyer, 3 educators, business people. So they meet once a month with me, and we work on different things. They look over the entire budget to keep us financially sound. They work with me on educational projects. But I am still the leader of the school. I am the employer of the teachers, but I meet monthly with the board, and the purpose of that is to try to make our schools successful and long-lasting into the future, that there will be Catholic elementary schools in the Diocese of Brooklyn. So I think that's an important piece, and then I'll be open to questions after everybody has their say.
Okay, Mr. Bouch?
Good evening. So in terms of, I think, the overarching theme that we're talking about here, to give you guys some information as to how you can better prepare yourselves or secure yourselves a position once you finally graduate, I think it's important to think about the process backwards. So think about the new teacher evaluation and looking at that and getting very well adept as to what the requirements and what are the things that you're going to have to evidence once you become a teacher in the classroom, and really studying that and going into interviews knowing full well what the expectations are, along with the chancellor's expectations, obviously the standards. I think if you go into meetings with principals or for prospective jobs, I think you're going to set yourself up well to engage in deep conversations around topics that are ultimately going to be under your privy in terms of how you're going to be evaluated. So I think that's something that I really want you guys to impart on. Definitely, the Danielson, right? Because that's the backbone of the teacher evaluation piece. And I think that if you look into that really deeply, I think that's going to help put you into a realm where you're not just seen as a newbie or someone that's going to be in a situation where it's going to expend a lot of energy from a principal to train you. I think that if you can showcase that, they're going to be a lot more at ease as to your willingness to transition well into the classroom.
Thank you, Marcus. Brian?
I would build a little bit on what Marcus said in the area of interviewing and being prepared. I think it's important to also vary your experiences. in whatever way you can while you're attending college and getting prepared for your career. For example, working in different school settings with different populations of students, thinking about where your particular license area is going to be, possibly moving in the way of becoming dual licensed, because the diversity within the population that you might see at a future school could call for students of special education, English language learners, students of all backgrounds, and some of those students may be in general education settings. So it's important that you really make yourself as marketable and diverse as possible, so that if the school calls for someone who is needed in a dual license area or in a particular area that might not be your strength, you might be able to, assist in any way that you can. So that is one area that I would stress.
Thank you. Anthony?
Hi, everybody. So I'm sitting here thinking about when I was in your seat. And sitting in there, and I'm trying to decide what exactly would I have wanted to hear back then. And so what I'm going to share with you, knowing what I know now, is that why are you in education? And whatever your reasons are, when you meet potential employees, make sure that you deliver that message any way that you can. For instance, I meet people frequently who are looking for a job, but they don't demonstrate how they're going to help the school. They basically just tell me, I'm looking for a job. And in my head, I'm thinking, that's very nice, but there are many people looking for jobs. And so I look to see what's special about the candidates. Because during hiring season, which could be anywhere from April to September, in this case, I just hired someone yesterday for a new class that we opened in November, what do you have that stands out besides your state certification? So your passion, whatever it is, don't just take a job because that's where the vacancy is. Make sure it's the right fit. Because as Mr. Liebman said earlier, if you don't enjoy where you're going to be, it's going to be an unpleasant year for both the students, the administration, and yourself.
Okay, good evening, St. Francis. Good evening, Kappa, all the great people here. It's a fun place to always visit. I love getting the invitation for Dr. Lyman. I can never say no to him. It's been a tremendous partnership for us, almost 5 years, going on 5 years. And what's really amazing, and I have to commend the leadership of Dr. G and all these top gun professionals, is you really know how to pick them and really set them for the stage. You're going on the biggest stage in your life. This is bigger than Broadway. Broadway does 2 shows a day. You as a teacher do 5 every day. Okay? So you're in a tremendous opportunity because you're going to play a hand of changing the world and making history every day in the classroom. Now, our new and great Chancellor, Farinda, she speaks a lot about culture and climate and how it's so important for the social and emotional support within a school community. You, as a teacher, you are the front line, you are the role model, right? So you have your students. I, as a principal, my teachers are my students. The key here is very simple. When you pick a school, you have to make sure it's the right fit, okay? Right fit meaning you have to make sure that the vision of that leadership team is all about the kids, all about the kids. Listen, kids are going to act like kids. We always have to speak in a very professional way. We've hired over 20 St. Francis student teachers and counting over the past 4+ years. The primary source is us, as far as us hiring across the board. Every one of them has remained. are now moving into leadership positions within the school. The biggest thing I think personally, when I interview is, my favorite question is, what makes you so special that I have to hire you? Don't say I work hard, no, listen. It's about attitude. Attitude meaning going above and beyond and really being a leader and setting the stage with your students every day. That's the bottom line. Yeah, we know you got the certification, you know you're an expert in a particular content, or you wouldn't get the license. Okay? Now, as a student teacher going into a school community, how do you get hired? Listen, these guys know how to set you straight as far as what you should be doing, as far as the attitude, because it's a way of acting. The kids act like kids because they're kids. You as an adult have no business acting like a kid. Okay? Get off Facebook, watch yourself on Facebook and social media. Why? When people investigate for a job, we Google, we do searches on Facebook. Okay? Make sure you don't have those inappropriate types of situations, even though they're out of the school. People are looking at everything you do outside of the school. That's unfortunate. That's the way of life is for the future, no matter where you go. So the key is attitude, because we want a culture and climate where all students feel comfortable and respected. We also have to respect each other as professionals. So the attitude is the key. Being part of the school community. We like to throw you right into the fire, because if you get hired by us, great. But if not, we want to have a hand in your success somewhere else. That's what we love to do, because we're going to help all kids by helping you as a student teacher. So being humble. And you don't know anything. You know a lot. I don't know anything at all. I learn every day. You have to be committed to becoming a lifelong learner and taking the constructive criticism. It's all about really looking how you can make yourself better every day. That's really the key. And all of you can always call me, come visit anytime. Okay, we have a lifelong partnership here with St. Francis, because what St. Francis has done for us, we've created that positive culture and climate that has supported our students. I see some of my former students here. It's amazing how fast time grows. I look a lot grayer, but I'm still a lot younger, right, Ms. Cortino, right? How are we doing? So it's a beautiful thing seeing how we played a hand with our own students who are now becoming future leaders. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But have the right attitude and always remain humble. That's the big, big word of the day. That's the big takeaway. And you have to make your experience as a student teacher every day very powerful, productive. You need the big takeaway every day. And by taking away, you have to give something big to every student and every professional in that building, wherever you're student teacher. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, we have a number of questions that have been submitted already. Michelle and Jess will ask the principals those questions on your behalf. You will have an opportunity to raise your hand later or submit another question if you want. And certainly if you want to follow up, let's say one of the principals says something that you're not sure of, or if you have something else that you'd like to add to the question, just raise your hand and we'll get to you, okay? Michelle, Jess, you want to fire away?
So, if you split down the middle, if you have written down questions already and you'd like us to ask them for you, you can pass your card down to either side right now.
Okay, if you have any questions,
And
pass
going
them to
forward,
that
if you're
side.
comfortable with asking your questions, next. Okay? They're also asking Jack.
Yeah.
Everyone's good?
Go ahead,
Okay.
fire away.
Can you have the leadership summit at Booty Junior High School in the spring?
Well, we did it, we saved the date. The same night that we had the conference, because I'm still flying high from that event on Saturday. We had a tremendous amount of great students that I've met in this audience, and Dr. Lyman and his family. October 3rd, 2015. That's the save the date. So Make sure it's in your calendar, okay? But we're gonna have one in the fall, a little bit earlier this year.
All right, so the next question, again, this is open to everyone. What is the average length of stay or the average length of time a teacher remains in your school?
I'm trying to think. My school actually changed. This is our 6th year as an academy. And except for leaving for childcare, I have a lot of young teachers. They pretty much have all stayed. I lost one to public school this summer. That was the first time that ever happened to me in my 17 years. So most of the time, people make a decision sometimes to teach in Catholic school or start in Catholic school. And I was lucky that I always maintained my faculty. I've had colleagues that sometimes you get one summer, Board of Ed opens up and a lot of people leave. So I've been very lucky, they pretty much stay. I have a number of people that are with me the whole 6 years. This is the 6th year as an academy. I don't have a big turnover.
Does anyone else?
I'm in my 8th year as principal. I turned over 80% of the staff, meaning less than 15% of the existing staff when I first got there is still standing. So of the 80% that we hired over the past 8 years, I would say we retained about 95% over the past 8 years.
But if I can add one thing to that, the 20 people you hired from St. Francis are all still with you, am I right?
100%, 100%.
Just want to get that point out there, guys.
And like I said, they're moving into leadership positions, and they're tremendous, absolutely. Everyone is a star.
So at Team 74, not 76, but 74, I've been an assistant principal there for 7 years and 4 years as principal. We have approximately 75 teachers on staff, and within that time, there has been one person that I am cognizant of at this moment that left, and that's for her personal reasons. Other than that, we've sustained the positions, except for retirements, obviously.
We'll jump over to that side.
So I'll just say my piece. So similar to Principal D'Angelo, I got rid of 85% of the staff within 2.5 years of my arrival. After that, I think one teacher left, but we wanted him to go. So I would say, 98 to 99% of the staff remains still intact as a result of shedding the initial 85% of the staff.
If I could just add one thing to that, keep in mind that when you get into a quality school, where you're working with a great leader, you don't want to go anyplace. So the reality is that, the principals will try to move on somebody who's really not helping the students. But if you have somebody, if you're working with somebody like these leaders, notice I didn't say for, but with, you want to stay. That's the reality.
But that goes two ways. So we're looking for people who are going to do whatever it takes, and not. So initially, right? So you guys are in a situation right now where you're going to be looking for jobs. You don't have jobs. You want jobs. Initially, you're going to probably in interviews say whatever it is you think that the principal wants to hear, so you can get that job. Once you get that job, and you fall into a negative pocket within the school community, because every school, good, bad, or other, has them. People often recite quotes from the contract, the UFT contract, what cannot be done or what you can't ask me to do, and once you start to gravitate to the negative, then you're kind of earmarked as one of those kind of teachers. Oftentimes it just doesn't end well. So I think that the best relationships are those that the principal goes out and is supportive, but also that the teachers give and go above and beyond to support the school and the students. And oftentimes that, over time, changes. So it's something to be really cognizant of.
Just to add to Principal Bausch's great comments, it's about, you're in a student teaching position, you better rock, okay? There's the bottom line is you're given an opportunity of doing real teaching, okay? You're not gonna be in the side just watching. No, you're gonna be in the position, in the seat. So, you have the opportunity, we're watching you. Listen, you're gonna be taking the same PD as all my other teachers and staff. You're not considered a student teacher. You are a colleague of our teachers. We have to establish that, because you're filling the role. Now, let's say if you have a passion, let's say, for example, you love dance, you love cheerleading, whatever, and we have these types of activities after school, or we have different recitals, look to help out and volunteer. Let people say, you know what, that one, I really like that one. She's a great fit. Now, Principal Bausch talks about toxicity in schools. Unfortunately, we have this bitterness in some schools. We had that before I got there. Pretty much you got to totally eliminate, except maybe 2 people. Within 2 years, they'll be out too. But the toxicity is because they have this paradigm belief of NALB. Write this down, NALB, no adult left behind. There's a big problem with that. It's the second letter. It's not about the adults, it's about the kids. So you want to get away from that toxicity. Stay away. Okay? That's what you have to focus on. Teaming up with the people who go above and beyond. You can see in every culture and climate. That's the bottom line.
I think I'd like to comment, only because of the difference. If people are making decisions of, they want to try Catholic or public, most of the Catholic schools are a much smaller school compared to them. I talked to Principal D'Angelo, and he has like 1,200 students. I don't have 300. So there's a difference in the climate, there's a difference among the teacher. We're a much smaller faculty. I have 14 full-time teachers, 3 office staff, and then I have part-time special subject teachers. So in our situation with a smaller staff, you really can't tolerate toxicity. I can't even say it, but we strive to really be a team. It's a much smaller group. You can't have someone bitter or unhappy in the building. You have to work to make them happy or work to make them part of the group. There's not enough room for cliques. So I want people to understand that's a major difference in a Catholic school and a public school is the size. So he has 75 full-time teachers, I have 14. That's a big difference in the community. And another big difference is the pay scale. So you should just be aware. We will welcome student teachers. Also, we'd be willing to hire student teachers if we had the opening. But we're on a much smaller scale. So I think it's important that as students, you do know that.
If I can just add one thing to Mrs. McGoldrick's comments. I found this out just the other day. If you work in a Catholic school and you want to go for a graduate degree at either St. John's or Fordham, they will refund 40% of your tuition at that school, in a Catholic school. If you work in a Catholic school, you get back 40% of your tuition.
Dr. Lyman, unless it's changed, they get it off the top. Principal
Okay,
signs,
fine,
I think they pay less to begin with. That's how it was when I went to Fordham. So that's something else.
But
Thank you.
Just to add to that, if you work in a Title I school, who knows what Title I means? I'm playing teacher now. Who knows what Title I is? Okay. Title I means that you are over 60% of your students are at a poverty level of free lunch. It's a federal designation, okay? So most student loans are forgiven if you work for a Title I zone in a particular area, especially teaching students with disabilities, special ed, and high-risk students. That's a great point.
Just one other thing. So in terms of, once you start the student teaching process, you have to look at it as a platform. And your job, you should be thinking networking the whole time you're there, whether the goal is to be in that school or not, because you never, the teaching, the DOE is huge, but when you really come to find, it's this big. And you don't know who knows who, that who knows what, and that someone says, maybe there's not an opportunity in that school, and you impress somebody that says, you know what, there wasn't an opportunity in this particular school, but I know a great social studies teacher, I know a great English teacher that's available, here's her name, here's his name. You never know who you're going to impress, and so I think that you really have to be aggressive in your thinking anyway as to how you approach the student teaching process when you get into the schools, because it is critical. You should be going in trying to impress the co-teachers that you're working with. You should be going in and trying to impress the assistant principals that you're working with. You definitely should be trying to impress the principal, because oftentimes that pool just like Booty, are teachers that get selected for the vacancies that come up. And, you really have to think about it, that it's not just compliance. That's another thing that you have to do in order to graduate. It's really a platform for you to showcase your skills, your interpersonality, how you go out and go above and beyond to support students. It's really it speaks better than a resume. And again, if the opportunity doesn't arise there and then, it could be that as a principal, I'm passing along your resume because you impacted me so deeply. And I said, you know what? Because principals talk. When it's vacancy time, principals talk and they'll call each other and they'll say, hey, what you got? What you need? And you know what? In the interview process, if I'm interviewing for math teachers and I might have interviewed 5 great math teachers and I only need 2, and I came across 3 others that were phenomenal, and I speak to Anthony, and Anthony needs 1, I say, Anthony, I got somebody for you. And next thing you know, you're already on your path to securing a position by impressing somebody you never met.
Being willing to go above and beyond the call of duty throughout your career. We have, tomorrow's Halloween, we have a situation, I have a teacher getting married tomorrow, we have substitutes in. 2 teachers came to me and said, don't worry about that schedule. We don't need the special subject teacher, we can do it. I was so grateful because with Halloween and the kids and they wear uniforms, they have a dress down tomorrow, so we don't know what's going to be. But if you go above and beyond and you're saving the person in charge in a bigger school, if it's the assistant principal, they will be very impressed by that and also grateful. So you're putting yourself in an ingratiating light that they will say, oh wow, she helped me out. Because you have to work together and give and take. So that's really an important part of it. And you will impress people. And in either system, it's the same thing. In my system, neighboring schools looking for someone was, God forbid, like in an accident. You can need teachers in the middle of the year. Someone had a baby. Someone broke an ankle. So then they'll say, do you know anyone? And it's easy to recommend people that you've seen work in your building.
And don't forget, that even if you don't work for that particular school, wherever you go, before anyone hires you, the DOE is big, but it's very small. They will contact the principal of that school where you were a student teacher. So you always look to do the right thing. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice all the time. As big as the world is, it's very small. Very small.
Okay. It's fine. Without a certification in special ed, would you hire someone? Like, would you hire someone that doesn't have a certification in special ed?
Yeah, I'll start that. I'm sorry. If there's a need, we hire what we have to, for a middle school, obviously we have to hire content licensed teachers. But, the best suggestion we can give all of you is you want to be very, very marketable and having the flexibility of being programmed in a school. So if you have multiple licenses, it gives us a lot of flexibility as a principal to fit you in a particular schedule. So you're not one dimension. So let's say if you have a content specialty in mathematics, you should get the special ed combination. This way we can almost program you for almost any particular math situation. Or even ESL, stuff like that. But, there's also hiring freezes on a lot of particular licenses because there's an overabundance of excess teachers who are not appointed. They're out there to being paid, but then I call them ATRs, absence teacher reserve. I'm sure you've heard about that term. But
Anthony, did you want to comment, or Brian?
I want Brian to.
What I would add on to that is, in my time at the school, I've seen the onset of co-teaching. And since that time, we had 1 co-teaching class, for example, on each grade. Now we have 2. So we've gone from 3 co-teaching classes to 6. In terms of self-contained, which is a 12-to-1 setting, we currently, in our 7th grade, which is the first time, we now have 2 self-contained 12-to-1 setting classes. And when you're looking for candidates for positions, you do look for the dual certification because, like I had said, the diversity in the populations that you'll be sitting with, whether or not it's a co-teaching math class, a co-teaching social studies class, there are candidates that are content specific that would probably be a greater number of candidates than someone who is dual certified, for example, in special education and social studies. The number of social studies content candidates compared to people who are dual certified, the numbers are probably staggeringly different. So in terms of the number of students that we have seen at our particular school who currently receive special education services, the numbers are growing. And from what I'm understanding, they seem to be growing across the city of New York. In some cases, I do think it is attributed to the increase in the standards. I think there is a little bit of panic that may have set in among parents if their children are not excelling like they should on the standardized assessments. But when the services are given to particular students who need them, that calls for staff who could address those needs. And we are seeing a significant increase on a year-to-year basis in students who need a co-teaching setting, a 12-to-1 setting, and, for example, our gifted and talented program is growing as well. So that's a different side of special education that people often forget, addressing students who are high achievers.
Also, keep in mind that 1 in 68 children are diagnosed with autism. Dr. G and I get calls just about weekly. Special ed teachers are needed. And, we just don't have enough students to recommend. So listen carefully to what the principals say about getting another certification, especially in special ed.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. I think the city's movement is from more restrictive going to least restrictive. So just to piggyback on what Brian was saying in terms of self-contained classes, lessening, and the ICT, the co-teaching classes increasing, that's kind of the wave of the city right now. And they're pushing back on making more restrictive referrals to special education. And I think that marketability-wise, I agree with Dr. Leibman in terms of having another license. And in the city, you can have 5 licenses, but when you go to get a job, you can only be employed under 1. So you could have a math license and a social studies license and a special ed license. When the time comes, it makes you more marketable because the person might want you for X position and you're coming with 3 different licenses, you don't have a job yet, you can now say, well, these are the licenses I have, and kind of say, well, what you got, and if it works out, then they can hire you under that. But the practicality of it is that the special ed license and the training that you get in special ed is going to assist you in teaching, just general good practices of teaching and differentiating and giving students access to the lesson no matter where they're at, no matter what you teach. But, people mention dual licenses. It's valuable for that reason, but you'll never work under 2 licenses at once. You'll only work on 1.
Well, you could work 20% out. You could work 20% out of
20%?
the license, still be highly qualified. So you could work 20% on a second license and 80% on your appointed license.
So if I understand the initial question, it was, would I hire somebody without special ed certification? The answer is no. So if I have a special ed vacancy and you don't have the special ed certification, I'm not hiring you. However, if you have a math license and it's a math content, you're hired. New York State dictates the requirements. And in order to be highly qualified, I want to make sure that the school is 100% in compliance with the survey, they call it the BED survey, that the state puts out. And so they verify. So if Marcus is teaching social studies and he has a math license, he's now qualified. So even if I'm desperate, I won't hire you if you don't have the appropriate license. What my colleagues here were talking about is the dual certification, which makes you stronger. For instance, Mr. Ranello, I opened up a new class that'll be effective Monday because we were overcrowded. And so I reprogrammed with the programmers. I didn't do it myself, actually. And I looked at it and I said, what I need is a dually certified person. They're not hanging around math and special ed, so they asked me, would you settle for someone that just had math? And so I looked around the staff to say, who could I juggle? And that's what he was talking about. Even though you might have both licenses, so what I saw is someone that has math and special ed already in place, so there's a juggling thing. You're working and appointed under one license, but I can still use you for the others because the state will recognize those other certificates that you have.
Okay, so the next question is, what are two of the biggest issues facing students in your school?
Facing the students.
Yes.
The two biggest issues facing students in your school.
In middle school, I would say, just in general, organizational skills, especially coming from the elementary, the sixth grade, when they come in, they're all over the place for the most part, and I think that they struggle organizationally with the transition, leaving a school that they're familiar with teachers and friends, and then branching off and going into different schools. When they come in, it's an extreme challenge, and then throw in hormones and all the other wonderful things that happen in middle school, and a lot of things go out the window. So I think organization and social media play a tremendous part in the challenges that middle schoolers face.
Historically, middle schools were created to provide a nurturing place in between the high school and the elementary. So what we see at the Nathaniel Hawthorne Middle School is our sixth graders come in with fear because of the self-contained, in elementary, and the big school, what's going to happen? And so their identities, as he was talking about, and what the chancellor is pushing with the social and emotional component, it's an adjustment. If you look back to your days in intermediate school, middle school, junior high, whatever it was called, when you went, how did you feel? And so knowing that the school should create a culture that would be sensitive to the needs of those students. What we do at Team 74 is that we have taken the city and the state's initiative for Respect for All and made that a year-long component so that everyone is constantly aware that the school is here for that adolescent age, so that by the time they get to hopefully November 3rd, which is Monday, the new students, the sixth graders, have settled in, and that part, they realize, okay, there are a lot of people in this together, and if I have issues about whatever I'm concerned with, this school is now my home, and whatever problems or concerns I had, I know the school's here to assist.
In middle school, large middle school, you have students coming from so many different elementary schools. And there's so many different cultures, different levels of quality teaching that they had before they got to your place. So you have students at so many different levels, a wide range of levels. So really seeing how we can put them together where we can develop a program that we want to move all students or at all different levels. Now, typically in middle school, the sixth grade boys are very immature. They're still immature until like 8th or 9th grade. The girls become mean in the 7th and the 8th grade, get very ugly, okay? So dealing with all that stuff going on. So the girls don't like to leave the drama on the stage. So we try to keep them, in check with that. But the social media and the Snapchat and all the, my kids keep me up to date with all the new technology. Facebook is out for kids, only for the old people. Now we do Snapchat and we do Instagram. And then we have all these different acronyms. The biggest challenge is keeping up with the acronyms. I just got by OMG and all that stuff, so it's amazing. So we have to really keep up to date on the lingo that they're doing and they're changing every day.
So our next question is actually for it says, what type of teachers do you look for to fill Catholic school positions? Do you look for teachers who are Catholic,
Diocese has, in former years, you could hire someone not for a homeroom, though, because in my school, everyone teaches their own religion. For special subjects, you used to be able to, but with the change to the academy, Catholic school teachers have to be Catholic. It plays an important part in the entire day because all the people in the building are practicing the same religion, so we live it. It's a Christian atmosphere, and as I said, in my school, all the homeroom teachers teach their own religion, so it's an integral part, and we don't have a choice anymore, so we hire Catholic teachers. And was there what type of person?
What type of teachers do you look for? Bill Catholic school teachers?
In my school, part of my philosophy is, especially when I came to Holy Angels, I was there 1 year before it became an academy, and it was a disaster. The administrator before me had been weak. There wasn't discipline in the school. The junior high was a disaster. The teachers weren't really teaching. So it was really a large challenge. So when I changed over with the academy, that's the one and only opportunity where everyone doesn't get rehired. You're closing the parish school and opening an academy. So no one is rehired automatically. The board then hires the principal, and at the time when my school became an academy, someone from the diocese and actually someone from my board, 3 people interviewed all the people in the school that wanted to apply to work in the new school, the academy. So I knew that I had to turn this around. So part of my philosophy is to create the team. So anybody who works for me has to be willing to be part of the team. All the people that work for me are very dedicated. They love children, they love teaching. They've made this decision because in Catholic school you're going to make less money, and sometimes they make it for different reasons. Couldn't get a public school job or whatever. It's convenient because they live nearby or whatever. But I look for people that are very dedicated, love children, know their subject, and are willing to be part of the team and work for the betterment of the school and the students.
All right, so this one is open to all. What are the possibilities of getting hired mid-year?
Mid-year?
Mid-year.
Depending on the situation. Within the last 2 years, I had a maternity leave both years, so I hired in the middle of the year. If need arises. Generally, though, at this time, I usually hire in May and June if I know I'm having an opening. I had surgery this summer, and the teacher that went to public school wasn't planning to leave. She got married, she got the opportunity, and so I was just recuperating from surgery, and she left her job. And we were very lucky. Dr. Lyman helped me because I was incapacitated, and that's how we got Rosemary Patrizzo, and we're very happy. So we would certainly, this is our resource, we would certainly look for St. Francis graduates if we have an opening.
So I would say that mid-year is not the typical, because usually you start off the year with a certain budget, with a certain amount of students, which generates how many classes that you're going to have. But depending on someone who leaves impromptu or someone who retires in the middle of the year, that creates a vacancy, or if you're lucky to have a certain kind of funding stream that allows you to go above and beyond, maybe to hire a teacher to reduce class size. I would say that it's not very common, but those are probably the only instances where a vacancy in the middle of the year might come up.
So I'm going to talk about, say that anything is possible, because I've seen it happen. It's happening at our school right now. I am hiring someone, but that's, as Marcus said, I'm altering classes because they were overcrowded. But also there's something called register growth, which I'll touch on. Sometimes New York City under-projects the enrollment, and it's happened to me before. And what happens is, let's say you're allotted a certain amount of money for 1,000 students, but by the end of October, which is when they look at your numbers, you have 1,050 students. The school will receive additional funding. However, most likely it won't come until January. At that time, you can decide what do I want to do with that extra money? Do I want to buy books? Do I want to buy new office furniture? Or do I want to open up a special class for whatever reason? So, as he said, it's not likely, but anything is possible because I've done all three.
Anything is very possible. So, I mean, I have people retiring in February, because they have to wait for their birth date, for a magic date, and stuff like
Yes.
that. Usually know about that ahead of time. But then you have a situation where a teacher may be removed because they do something that's not too bright. So that creates an opening as well. So, a lot of things will definitely happen, and Dr. Lyman has received numerous phone calls at all different hours, all different days, saying we have a situation. So just be ready and sit tight.
Next question?
Jobs in elementary school, they're very hard to come by. What advice would you give to a future teacher for the elementary level?
I should point out that the elementary principal who was supposed to be here, Christina de Blasio Danielson, graduate from about 5 years ago, just opened up an elementary charter school in Rosedale. She had a personal emergency and could not be here. She was our representative from the elementary schools. But did anybody want to handle that one? Rosemary, perhaps?
Yeah, just say it again.
Jobs in elementary school, they're very hard to come by. What advice would you give to a future teacher for the elementary level?
Okay. In my school, I have nursery through grade 8, so we have everything. If that's your passion, I would suggest you just pursue it. As everyone said here, when you student teach, make an impression on the people. Sub in places that you like. We're always looking for subs, and they're hard to come by also. So you just have to, keep showing your best foot. And when an opportunity and an opening happens, the people will remember the impressive people that came to their building, always. You come to a building and you're really good with the children and you get along with everyone there, they'll remember you and they'll want you back.
The critical thing, I think, is the co-teachers, whoever you're working with. I remember clearly a lot of teachers would come to me and say, go take a look at that that student teacher. Go spend some time. She's really good. He's really good. He works really well with the kids. The kids love him or her. If you impress the co-teachers, it gets back to the administrators. It definitely does. And it sparks their interest, and then a light bulb goes off, and it comes back later in the time of need. So it's something that, it's not going to happen by chance. You have to understand the dynamic. You have to purposefully network, and you have to do this in the hopes of securing the type of position that you want. You can't just go in and say, oh, I got to do 80 hours, and I'm here, and go through the motions. Like, you have to really be passionate about what you're doing and purposefully trying to impress people, because it'll pay dividends later, definitely will.
So 2 quick points I'm going to add on to Marcus. I started as an elementary school teacher in February. So there, I got a job middle of the year, and I got an elementary position. Why? Because I student taught. I student taught the semester before. I subbed in June. Then somebody asked me, it was an F status, it was a part-time job. So I was in the school from September through January. I remember the principal came up to me, said, Mrs. Silberman is going to take a union position. Are you interested? I was going for my master's full-time, and I didn't want a full-time job, but nobody else was offering me a job, so I said, I better take this position. And so it does happen. The other thing I want to share with you is that I used to work in human resources, and over not too far from here at 65 Court Street. And one of the things I noticed is the majority of applicants were elementary education. So the pool for that level is higher than the secondary.
And just to add to that, and some of you may not like to hear what I have to say, but you're going to get it anyway. This is the real deal, and this is the real world. Elementary school growth is only moving towards charters. So what does that mean? That means there's less non-charter elementary schools in the growth stage. So it means that customers are going away from the traditional public schools and going to the charters for elementary. So if we don't have the customers, what happens? We shut the plant down, we lose the workers, right? So there'll be more excess teachers. This is my vision, this is my prediction, okay? Over the next 5 years, you're going to see an increased number of the pool, like Principal Armstrong mentioned about, as far as people who are licensed, appointed in Common Branch. So it's going to be even more challenging to find an opportunity outside of a charter situation. So don't be intimidated by the middle school phenomenon. Visit middle schools. It's a very different world when you were a middle school student.
You just want all the middle school teachers from St. Francis, that's what it is.
I want to get a job, I mean, very simple. I was a math teacher, I got a job within two weeks out there. Because there's a demand, we still can't fill math teachers, science, ESL. You have that special ed, you're gold, you're diamonds and platinum. So it is what it is, the facts of the matter. So I don't see the freeze lifting anytime soon, unfortunately, for Common Branch Elementary. So, everyone has big loans. They start paying interest, so you take that for what it's worth.
Okay, so in what ways do you provide support for your employees?
In what ways do you provide support for your employees? For your teachers?
I could give you a concrete example. I go for physical therapy. One of my teachers is meeting with a difficult parent tomorrow morning, and I cancel my appointment. I won't leave a flat, and she was very grateful. And we talked about a couple of other options, and she went, all right, but, I'm kind of worried. I said, forget it. I'm just not going to physical therapy. So I support them any way I can. If they have a difficult parent, I'm willing to meet with them with their parent. I back them up no matter what. One time at a faculty meeting, as we were leaving, at the end of the meeting, before we left, I said something like, you people are really good with handling parent problems. Everybody is, you don't back down, and that's really an asset. And I have a male gym teacher and a male homeroom teacher, and the male teacher said to me, that's because we know you'll always back us up. So I always back them up. I encourage them to communicate with me, and I don't have a problem. I said, you could have a bad day, you can have an altercation with a parent, and you did the wrong thing. But come and tell me. When the phone rings, I have the right answer ready for the parent. So I communicate well with them. I encourage them to let me know about any incident. Even if they have a problem with a student, again, when the phone rings and a parent calls me to complain, I could say, oh, Miss So-and-so told me. And did you know that before the teacher said that to your child, threw his desk over? That doesn't happen in my school. But those kinds of things. So I communicate well with them, I back them up, and I will support them in any way I can. People come in all the time. My phone and door never stop. My papers are piling. Tomorrow I'm locking myself in. But people come in and say, are you busy? And I always say, I'm never too busy for you. So I give teachers time. I will stay late with them. I will come in early to be with them. Whatever they need, I'm always there for them. And as a result, no one ever says no. We're a small staff. Someone's absent and someone has to do their lunch duty. It's different in a non-union situation. I'm in a very different position from the gentleman. So, so-and-so's absent, she forgot to tell me she had lunch duty, someone has to do it. People just volunteer and they say, I'm sure when she, comes back, she'll pay you back. They'll say, don't worry, she doesn't have to pay me back. So we create a whole spirit where they all back each other up. And they back me, support me through everything I go through. So that's part of it.
In terms, I'll speak specifically to one department at our school who is very self-motivated and seeks opportunities outside of the school building to enhance their programs, and that's our arts department. And in terms of the support we as a school offer our arts department, first of all, our principal, Anthony, has been recognized by the mayor as the winner for the Mayor's Award for Arts and Culture, and then providing leadership for the school. The teachers know that the backbone of the support comes from the administration. So if there's an opportunity outside of the building that they want to investigate, take their kids on a field trip, as long as the conversation centers around how is this going to take your program to the next level, what are you going to do with the kids, what are you going to do before the field trip, what are you going to do after, and it's a productive opportunity for the students, we will support it, and the teachers understand that. So that really motivates them to seek these opportunities out, to continue to enhance their programs. We're proud to say that we have 7 different arts forms at our school, 7 different types of arts classes that we offer. And the reason why the kids are able to excel in these classes is they realize there is a commitment, a direct commitment straight down from the administration, through the parents, through the students, to the arts, and it allows them to exceed as much as possible in those arts classes. So it's giving that support. If there's an opportunity outside of the building, yes, we'll support you on it. Yes, the kids have to miss a full day of class, but the rest of the staff understands that there's a very productive reason for it, that it will further their experiences, it'll help them be college and career ready, and to have valuable experiences well beyond their middle school years. So we try and really support those opportunities.
That was the best question asked so far tonight, because before you go into a school, you got to do your homework. Now, how do you know if a teacher or the staff is being supported? You don't believe the principal, you don't believe anybody. You look at the data. You go online, every school has a learning environment survey, okay? It's an anonymous survey that all staff, parents, teachers, they do every year. They speak about the principal specifically, about trust, it's about support and everything else. That is the best data you can look at, because that sets the entire culture and climate. Now, why is support so important? The first challenge is to land a job. Now you think, oh, it's easy now. No. The work starts and gets worse, because in 3 years you come up for tenure. You don't have the support. You don't get tenure, it's not a nice situation. It's a very, very difficult situation. So you have to look at the right fit as far as the school. Personally, I recommend a person looking for a job, make sure the principal has tenure. Because we get tenure, teachers. Because the principal is the person who's going to fight for you. Okay, so when you have tenure, and I've been challenged, by a superintendent, say, okay, well, there's an issue with this one. I say, well, let's bring it up to the next level, because I feel very strongly. So there's a different type of reaction when the principal has tenure also you're working for. But check the data, okay? In my school, the best way to move, students as far as achievement, you have to support your teachers. It's Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa every day a booty for my staff. Whatever they want, they get. What drives instruction is one thing, money. Knowing how to get outside grants and knowing how to manage the money on the inside and give you the right resources. Every classroom, 60 classrooms, every classroom has air conditioning, even on the 4th floor. Every classroom has a smart board. Every classroom has a laptop card of 30 Chromebooks or laptops, okay? Giving the teachers everything they need for success. iPads, minis, no problem. PD, there's never no. It's never no. It's Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa. But check the survey of any particular school you're looking to go into. That says it all.
So the next question, Mrs. Brown. What do you think is a good predictor of someone becoming an effective teacher? For example, GPA, state exams, student teaching, or tangible like passion, attitude, etc.?
I think a good predictor is how they engage with students. I think seeing that interaction, seeing how they go above and beyond, I think that's telling, because learning theory or being good at school and being studious, I think that's valuable. That goes to work ethic, but I think that the dynamic between the teacher and the student is one of the most telling indicators.
You have to love children. If you're going to do this as a career, you have to truly love children. That's the first thing. And I agree. The interaction, You could be the smartest person, and if you can't relay your idea, or you really don't like children, or you don't have patience, then you're going to have a difficult time. So you have to have all those other things, but you have to have the passion, you have to love the children, you have to really want to do this, and it's the interaction with them that you can get your ideas across.
I don't believe there's one single indicator that I would give more attention to. Just like if I'm the teacher, I look at multiple factors to make a determination. One of the things I've noticed, for instance, is someone could come in with a great GPA, but as you said, if I don't believe they love children, or if they come in looking like they just woke up, or their resume has typos in it, I look at everything and then draw a conclusion.
I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know if it's a Catholic school image or an old-fashioned, so I was a little leery, but you said it. Appearance. You know, how you walk into that interview. It's a very casual world. I'm in a Catholic environment. You can't wear a low cut. I know that this is how clothing is cut. You got to have the tank top under it. When the girls are hot and tight in the classroom, they take their hair and they pull it up, but don't walk in for the interview like that. Your hair has to be combed. You have to look like you didn't just roll out of bed. You can't be wrinkled. You have to dress professional. I don't expect you to come every day in a suit and teach, but you have to come. You're meeting me. You want to make an impression. You have to be dressed professionally. It can't be too casual. It can't be sloppy. It can't be any of those things. That's the first impression. And it's part of my personality, but I see everything in the first image. So I saw that your hair's crooked, you know, whatever. Your appearance is very important because you're selling yourself. If there are 20 candidates, or even if there are only 2 candidates, it's not only the person that's good with that you think is good with the children. If everything's equal, it goes by appearance and how you interact, how you're going to cooperate with the administration. So it's very, very important that you take time, that your appearance is the best that it can be and not too casual. You're going on a professional interview, it's a professional situation, you have to reflect that.
I want the well-rounded person. I want it all. Because my expectations are very high. And I'm not going to settle for second best. It's a championship team or no team. Very simple. So I'm a Yankee fan, so that's a big deal. 27 championships. But you have to have a championship attitude. You have to have all the dimensions. You have to walk it, talk it. You have to have, you know, all the skills. Besides, you know, your high GPA, you have to have the interpersonal skills. You have to have the communication skills. You have to have the passion. You have to have your organization skills. There's so many different dimensions of leadership.
You've heard, I'm sorry, from all the people here that we all have successful schools. But part of it is, it never ends. So there's 3 schools on 4th Avenue in Bay Ridge. And when I started, we were the lowest enrollment. Now we're the highest, not by that much. But part of the drive, and the people are on board with me, is you can't say, oh, we've done all this and this is good. So we're done, we're just a good school. You have to keep improving. We're talking about arts, we're talking about programs. So you're always trying to be better. You're never so good that you can't improve. Nobody's perfect, no teacher's perfect, no principal's perfect, the students aren't perfect, but you have to always be willing and want to go the next step. Well, we have all these great things, well, what are we going to do next? And the decisions may come from administration, but you need the people on your team on board to never settle. Yeah, we're doing great, but we want to be even better. So how can we up the ante? And it's important that you buy into the vision of whatever your administrator or your whole school is. And you will feel it if you student teach in a school, you will feel it if it's a fit, as I think D'Angelo, I was going to call you Tommy, Principal D'Angelo said. It's really important. You'll feel the fit. You'll sense it. People walk into a building and know, oh, this isn't for me, or, you know, this is. There's different noise levels in schools, and everybody works different. You have to be in a place where you fit in. Maybe you're a very artsy person. There are schools where the faculty is more artsy than others. Catholic school in general is kind of a conservative place, you know, so it may not be for you if you are not conservative. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration.
Okay.
We've got our next question.
All right, so this one's open to all. Are there any positions open in any of your schools for the fall, and how often do you hire hire teachers?
I wouldn't know yet about the fall. And I think we covered some of that with what sometimes during the year and, you know.
Yeah, I agree. At this point, we don't have any vacancies, but that's something that will flush out starting in the spring as teachers, right? So once you become a teacher in the Department of Education, in April, the open market transfer system opens, which allows teachers to pursue other opportunities in different schools. There's like a posting board so that they can apply to vacancies in other schools, and once they get hired by the new school, the subsequent principal will get an email stating that such and such teacher has transferred, hence a vacancy will happen or open up in your school. But I would say that even though it opens in April, if you're lucky, you'll start to get them in June. More often than not, they happen in July.
I anticipate 4 vacancies. 2 based...
I have 4 wonderful candidates.
Okay. 2 based on retirement, and as my esteemed colleague said, 2 who will be discontinued. But I don't wish to discuss that further. But I will tell you the potential vacancies would be mathematics, special education / science, another special ed, preferably with an ELA content, and a social studies special ed.
Now, Anthony, they'd have to be certified both in order to get that
Um,
job. Can you take a social studies teacher without the special ed?
Quite possibly,
Okay.
because it depends on the variables, but yes.
So we've had 20-plus vacancies for the last 3 years every year.
Oh.
So probabilities, I would say, we would have several vacancies across all content areas.
And I'll add 2 of them might be February, depending on our conversation with the superintendent.
Okay, so the next question is, how do you make the children feel safe in your school?
How do you make the children feel safe in your school? How do you create that atmosphere?
I know at our school, what we really make an effort in terms of making it a commitment, a long-term commitment, is the Respect for All initiative that we originally were named a Respect for All school, and we've taken the initiative to the next level. We're constantly looking for ways to make the kids feel as comfortable as possible with each other, with the adults in the school, and then the adults feeling comfortable with the other adults in the school as well. You can't preach respect if you're yourself not going to give it, and we feel strongly that it starts from the top, and then on down, the kids will only feel respected and as safe as those they come into contact with, whether or not it's students or staff members. In terms of safety, whether or not it's student to student or something that we're dealing with right now currently, which is a traffic safety situation in front of our building and behind our building, we will do what it takes to try and rectify these situations if we see that they're becoming, a dangerous issue for our students. Kids jumping out of cars in the morning, for example, walking across, in some cases, 3 lanes of moving traffic. If we see there's a need, we will try and do what it takes to make the school environment more safe for them.
Okay.
But
The next question.
just to add to that question, you have to make every child feel connected to an adult. And no matter how big your school is, you need to make every child feel
Very light.
And I have lunch with every student.
No sugar.
No sugar?
No sugar.
The majority love pepperoni pizza. So it goes a long way with pepperoni. You need to have them feel comfortable to come to you for any situation. And, it's not just the bullying and the victim, it's all those bystanders who That's the majority of the people. You really have to get them to become upstanding citizens. And, you know, you have to practice and preach it every day. It's about the respect.
This next question is kind of stemming from that one. This past Saturday, I was at your school doing the anti-bullying summit, and the first session that I went to was LGBTQ. And something that came up was just making that community feel safe in the school. And we're saying how you really don't see signs in the classroom or in school of like same-sex marriage or love yourself or, you know, just positivity and embracing that. So as principals of your school, how willing are you to embrace that community so they feel safe in your school as well and they're not excluded?
Well, in our school, we embrace all children, and kids come with a myriad of concerns, issues that come up on a daily basis, and, you know, our job is not to judge. Our job is to support them where they're at with what's going on in their lives at that particular time, and try to couple the services or the support to what they're going through. I mean, that's really the general goal of our staff.
In being in a smaller school, pretty much everybody knows everybody. I know almost every name. I'm working on learning the younger ones. We have a full-time nurse. We have a guidance counselor, so whatever comes up, we try to handle as soon as possible with the proper person if they need extra. But the teachers are always willing to listen. I think that the children know that they could come to me if they have a problem, so we try to, you know, instill that.
But the best way to support all the students is to have a faculty and staff that's very diverse, that mirrors all of your students. So everyone feels that there's a connection. So, you know, we see a lot of these students express themselves and coming out, which is great. You know, and you know, everyone is supported and everyone is feels connected. And, you know, there should not be any issue because of their preference that would affect the learning environment. Absolutely. So zero tolerance for any type of disrespect like that.
And one of the things we always tell you in the ed department, it doesn't matter what your race, nationality, culture, gender, sexual preference, none of that matters in your classroom. Everybody's treated with respect, everybody. And if you can't do that, then what I would suggest you do is switch majors and find another profession. Because children are very sophisticated, whether they're second grade or high school seniors. They know a phony when they see one, and they feel how you feel about them. It's something they know instinctively. So everybody is treated with respect at all times. That's the way it has to be. It's that simple.
This past Monday, we had a conversation with a representative from the Office of Equal Opportunity in regards to the New York State Dignity for All Students Act. And one of the reasons, aside from it being a compliance mandate, the reason it was scheduled is that we wanted to remind the staff that they are the representative and the caretakers for our students. So whether it's a specific group, that, you know, your question was about a specific population, but I look at it as Mr. D'Angelo said, every group should feel comfortable. And one of the things that we take pride in at our school is to make sure that as adolescents, as they're learning who they are, that there's also a respect for others. And our child support team is quite visible. So if there is anyone in the school that for one reason or another devalues another person, there are specific and very sequential, how shall I say this without sounding like a military school, but there's a discipline code and it's enforced. I have no tolerance for anything that is hurtful to another human.
First of all, thank you. I want to thank the company for asking my question because it's an important question. I want to thank Dr. Lyman for organizing this and also the Kappa Honor Society I really appreciate this. This is a marvelous event. And I thank everybody on the panel also. My question is extremely important since as one of the principals said, we're constantly learning and reflecting on what we do as professional educators. My question to you is, since you know our students and you know our school, what kinds of things can you recommend that we can add to our program besides 3 more classes in special education that can improve our program here at St. Francis? Please speak loud so I can hear you. Don't be embarrassed, because I have to fix it.
So I think about something I mentioned earlier about exposing teachers to the evaluative process, the new process that teachers, how they're getting evaluated now, looking at the shift of the city, new administration, everything is changing, the chancellor's 5 pillars, the chancellor's instructional expectations, keeping in mind that with what you just mentioned and constantly being reflective. You teach a lesson, you create a lesson plan, you teach a lesson. After that lesson, there should be something on your lesson plan for you to reflect on how well that lesson you think, you perceive was, how it was received. Did they get some of it? Did they get a little bit? Did they get a lot of it? Did they get most of it? And if they didn't, what worked well, what didn't? And then that should be impacting subsequent lessons. If they got most of it or nearly all of it, then you're in a good place to continue with the next planned lesson. If they got 50% or less of the lesson based on your assessment, you should be putting things into a place to remediate those groups of students that didn't, and think about how you're going to reteach or give them that content before you move on. It can't be like sometimes in college, lecture, you get it, then there's an exam. If you didn't get it, then too bad. That's not how the educational system works. And given that there's so many different types of learners, from Ls to students with disabilities, we have to figure it out in detail, how we're going to do it. And if we're not meeting the mark, we have to figure out what we're going to do to make it the next lesson, next time they're in front of you.
Anyone else? Anybody else?
Yes. So we all went to college that are here, and one of the things that I realized when I became a teacher is that the college didn't necessarily prepare me for every situation. Not that I expected it to, because we cannot predict the unpredictable. However, one thing that I would suggest, to add on to what Marcus said, the reflective component in alignment to motivation and self-directed and self-guided learning is an important component of teaching. When you graduate St. Francis, your learning doesn't end. And if you think when you graduate and you receive your bachelor's that you know everything, then don't send me your resume. I want to see you take a class that demonstrate how you are going beyond. I want to see, how do you push your learning? Not that you got through 4 years and now you say, okay, I'm done, thank God this is over. No, say thank you, God, and bring additional opportunities for learning so that I can then transfer this to the students, because you don't know who's going to be in front of you. The one thing that I have no tolerance for, and you can email anyone on my staff, there's a certain word, and Brian's going to smile soon, that if I hear that, it tells me about your mental model. I don't want to hear that you're overwhelmed with stuff, because to me that means many things that you're not handling it. Overwhelmed to me is a state of mind, and you need to work on that and say, yes, life presents us many challenges. How am I going to handle them? Some of the teachers, after I speak to them on something, for instance, the class that's opening up on Monday, I had a conversation with the teacher. I don't remember what day it was. I said, you have to 4 o'clock to give me your answer. She said, do I have a choice? I said, yes, you can quit. That was the choice. Not that I was being mean, but what I saw is that this person wasn't willing to go beyond. What I heard was, I'm comfortable doing what I want. I don't care about the kids. She didn't say that, but that's what I heard. I said, you have to 4 o'clock. I met with her at 2. I suggested that she speak to her colleagues. I gave her 3 options of a different program so that I demonstrated that I was working with her. So if you can create some type of seminar or class or component to push people's thinking so that they realize that life is not circling around them, but they're circling around life, I think that would help make each candidate a stronger person to just living in life.
Before, Mr. D'Angelo mentioned constructive criticism. And I'm doing this a long time, and I don't know, I think it's generational. And it's just from something, the way society is. But I find young people have more difficulty with constructive criticism. They're very defensive, so it's like a yeah, but, yeah, but. But if the principal's speaking to you and telling you a fact, you have to listen before you're saying yeah, but. I'm not saying St. Francis is doing this or not, but it's a very important component. There's a whole article and a lot of things about children today. Parents don't want to accept that they're not perfect. I read an article where before you had to really work hard to get the sticker, and now everyone gets a sticker for everything. And you have to know that as a beginning teacher, you're not perfect. So if a supervising teacher or an administrator something tells you something, it doesn't mean that you're not still good, but it means that you have to work on this area. You have to be receptive and open to hear things like that. So when you said that, it reminded me of that. And it's not in a bad way, but sometimes I just feel the younger people are just more like, oh, but I did do that. But you know what I'm saying? You need to do this too. Because we have a lot of experiences, a lot of years of experience under our belt, and we want you to benefit from even some of our mistakes. So that's an important component, whether they have, when they student teach, you know, they have those meetings and conferences, but it's important for you to be able to discuss that probably among yourselves as you're going out into the teaching community, that you're able to take a suggestion and a constructive criticism without being devastated or having a comeback.
I think that's a good point, and when you're a hiring manager and you're providing that service for a school, we have taken time out to even read articles and study about the millennials. And I found that not in large part, because I think overall the satisfaction of teachers in our school is high, but there have been several instances where young or new teachers come into a school and everything is fine so long as the answer is yes. Yes. They ask a question, they want something, they need something, yes, yes, yes. As soon as the time comes for the answer to be no, or no, not at this time, or maybe later, people get frustrated, and in small parts, people have left because they haven't liked the answer. And I think it's something that you really need to think about, because you have to build your resiliency and work on your pedagogy. You're not going to know much. It'll take you 5 years just to learn how to manage a classroom. And given the fact that you can't teach until you can manage a classroom, that's a long time. So, I mean, you really have to be humble, as D'Angelo said, and smart about how you go about doing things, and understand that resiliency and work ethic are things that are going to get you to succeed, and also to get you to the next level of leadership when those opportunities come.
You can't be afraid to admit you don't know something. So that if you don't know, it's better that you ask than you do something the wrong way. And there are certain things in education, you're talking about classroom management, that a more experienced person will just have a more efficient way to do. So you can't be afraid to ask the cooperating teacher or anybody there helping supervise you questions. And it goes back to humble and those kind of words.
But it all goes back to one thing. What is quality teaching? Okay? Like Principal Bausch mentioned, 5 years to get it. Do The issue is you only have 3 years. The first 3 years, that's when you come up for tenure. So you got to get up that learning curve very quickly. Now, you have a great program here. And you look to raise the bar on yourself, which is awesome. But really, I think what we have to do is, and this goes for everybody, you have to expose all of these great future teachers here to what is quality teaching. How do you define quality teaching? Is it me standing up in front of a classroom with 30-plus students and me talking? No. If the students don't get it, you failed. Let's get that straight. Understanding the quality review process. Understanding things. I was sitting down too much. I had to stand up. Okay? I
That's
really
a
sit down in my
teacher
school. This is the most I've sat down maybe for like 3 years. Okay? You have to understand that you have to relinquish control. We as administrators and superintendents, we want to see conversation between students. We want to see questioning, high order questioning. Bloom's taxonomy, you better know better than your birthday. You need to understand it as far as what exactly does it mean, high order thinking questions. It's not about a race of finishing. You need to have evidence of student gaining something from every class. What is quality teaching? Put a class in the curriculum. You need to expose these great future teachers to quality teaching because you can talk about it all day until the cows come home. Unless you see it and you see it in action, you're not going to get it. So, to raise the bar, and we always like to continuously improve the situation over here, Dr. Live and Dr. Chi, put in the class what is quality teaching. That is going to be the most valuable class, no offense, that you can take and really have an impact on your professional career. Because you need to see it to really understand it. You need to see that it really works. When you relinquish control, it's not the one teacher in front of the classroom with 30 students sitting in rows. No, students, mixing teachers, differentiating the instruction. Differentiating instructions, multiple entry points. What is multiple entry points? You better know about it. What is scaffolding of instruction? You better know about it. But you have to see it. I'll be available to help you with that course, Mr. Dr. Chi, as far as laying out the syllabus.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
We're saying, everybody on the panel, we have a few more minutes to add to that. I've taken a lot of notes, and I do appreciate your honesty.
Do we have any other questions? Coming forward.
Okay, so the
If I
next
can just
question-
interject one thing. At the end of this, hopefully, I know it's been a long day for all of you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here and imparting so much knowledge to our students. What we'd like to do is, I have coffee and cookies, which I'm not going to take home. So I want you to take part in that informally. Perhaps you can ask some of the questions after this as well, okay? Michelle?
The next question is, do you look at portfolios? Do you want to see lessons that the candidate successfully executed?
Yes.
Cover to cover.
Thank you.
It seems to me that the college programs today encourage them, and I've had in recent years, usually candidates come with it. If they have portfolios, they bring it, yes. And there's usually documentation and pictures of something they did, and that's helpful. It's good to see the creativity and things that they initiated themselves.
We instituted a new hiring methodology. Someone who wants to be a teacher, you speak to them. Okay, we're giving you 25 minutes. Write me up a lesson plan right now. On the spot. Teachers who've been teaching for several years in the open market, very powerful. Forget about a demo lesson. Show me a lesson plan right now. This is the topic. So putting you under that pressure is what it's all about.
The next question is, do you have to finish all of your state tests before you are hired? What happens if you are still working on them?
If you're working on certification, you could be hired in Catholic school. If you're right out of college and you're working on it, I would hire you. I don't know if cities.
In New York City, in order to be hired, you must have state certification. However, there are alternative transitional certificates that the college can assist you with in order to be hired if there is something pending. But you'd have to discuss that specifically with the education department and your college.
Or there are also the Teaching Fellows or Teach for America, those transitional programs that help get you there, but, they have agreements with the Department of Education to allow you to begin as you're continuing and finishing your requirements and your masters.
Oh, yeah, okay. Men in elementary school, what are your feelings on the subject?
Say it again?
Men?
Men in elementary school, what are your feelings on the subject? So
Men-
male
Oh.
teachers in elementary
Teachers,
school.
elementary school.
That you don't get a large group of men wanting to teach at that level, but I don't have a problem with it.
Very needed, I would say.
That's how I got my job.
And you did okay.
Why did you make the decision to take on a supervisory role? Did you start at with the goal of being a principal, assistant principal, or did you just take on leadership positions once you started teaching?
So I think in my mind, it was two reasons. One was I wanted to impact a broader amount of student base, and the other was I was in a school where the principal loved him to death. He retired, someone came in. I had a conflict with her philosophy, how she did things, and in my mind, she ruined things. And I said, well, if she could do it, I think I could do it better. And that motivated me to go back to school and to do it my way. Yeah.
I didn't start out with the goal of administration. Two administrators that I worked for had said you might want to think about it. So I thought about it for a long time. Catholic school was the system I had worked in. Then I got in a position where I would have liked to make more money, and I wanted to stay in the system I was used to. And the diocese used to have classes, they still do, for, future principals. So I went to a class, and at the time, Fordham had a program. They worked with the diocese, and they came to us. They held classes in Catholic elementary schools, and I thought, I want to try this, and I did. And the rest is history.
Similarly, I did not start off wanting to go into administration. I wanted to be a teacher. And prior to actually entering administration, I didn't want to leave because I loved being in the classroom. But there were certain opportunities, and as Marcus said, I realized that you do have a different impact and so on. It was a natural growth.
So I did a career change 12 years ago and left corporate America as my last position. I was a vice president at JP Morgan. I always wanted to go into education because I had awesome math teachers when I was in middle school and elementary school. So I loved mathematics. So I left corporate America 12 years ago and became a teaching fellow for mathematics. Taught math just like you see me. Suit and tie every day in front of 8th graders, had a tremendous impact with 100 students for 3 years. I said, well, it's time to bring it to a bigger level. So I went right into the Leadership Academy. So I went from a teacher of 3 years to a principal, taking on a school that was like just a ship with the Titanic after the iceberg. The school was sunk, okay? It was a school where no one wanted to go to and had a tremendous reputation that was really horrible. And to walk into a situation where you didn't know anyone and turn it around was a tremendous challenge. But it was probably the greatest thing that I could have done, and I wish I would have done it sooner, because seeing the impact you have as an administrator for your staff and for your students is a tremendous feeling. Right now, you can't do that anymore. Right now, when the chancellor came in, you have to have a minimum of 7 years, I believe 7 or 10 years educational experiences in order to be an administrator.
Is that new with the present chancellor?
Yes.
That's the rule?
Yeah. So it couldn't have happened. It can't happen now. It was one of those situations.
Michelle?
Yes, so this is the last question. What is your typical day like? And what is the school schedule? So So an example, 7 to 3 p.m. after school. I'd like to know about after school hours as well.
In our school, classes start promptly at 8, and students get out at 2:20 every day. The teachers get professional development on Monday and Tuesday, which keeps them to school more or less till 3:30, 3:40, Monday, Tuesday, and teachers get out at 2:20, Wednesday through Friday, unless they have any other after-school programs or clubs or any other commitments that they have going on. That's basically it.
There is, oh, go ahead.
Our students go up at 5 to 8. They get out, it's staggered because of different grades. Nursery and pre-K get out at 2:30. K through 5 get out at 2:45, and junior high gets out at 2:55. Every teacher is obligated from November 1st to April 30th to provide an after-school club for 1 hour once a week. And it's their choice. So we have cooking club, we have board games, we have choir, we have a Glee club, and then there's an after-school program that they can work in to make extra money until 6 p.m. And we have a teacher that does early morning drop-off, so children can be dropped off at 7:20, and parents pay extra for that.
Our school day is similar to what Marcus described, 8 to 2:20 for the students, teachers, 3:35 on Tuesdays, 3:40 on Mondays. We do have an after-school program for our kids that is part of an outside organization which we work very closely with because they are our students, so they are integrated as a part of our school, and that lasts from 2:20 to 5:20. And within our school, we also have various activities. We try and meet the students' needs, regardless of what they are. For example, robotics. We have an Odyssey of the Mind team. We have a Science Olympiad, a math team. Where there's competition at our school, the kids relish the opportunity to be part of a club or team that will compete. So we do offer those opportunities. Our staff, in a lot of cases, facilitates those. Those will go for anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half after 2:20. So there's always there's always something going on, night events and so on, that the kids are participating in.
So I'm not going to give you a typical day because in my viewpoint there isn't one. So what I will say to that question is it depends on you and what you make of the day.
That's a great line. It all depends upon your leadership style. If you want to rock the place and make a difference every day, you're going to have long hours. If you have a vision that's really innovative and very creative, there's a lot of hours. If you're passionate about your job, and listen, let's face it, you're going to work 180 days, top salary after 22 years is $120,000, okay? That's a tremendous, tremendous deal. But for those 180 days, you better be on top of your game every day, okay? So you can't go out the night before clubbing, all that stuff. Forget about it, okay? The bottom line is that don't get arrested and don't do something stupid like that because you're going to lose your job, okay? I mean, I've had teachers call me up on a Friday night, Saturday night, they got arrested, okay? I've had to bail them out, which is okay, okay? So from a leadership, every school is very different. Depends upon the leadership style and so forth. But it starts with vision, okay? So if you want the status quo, you're going to leave at 3:30, and you're going to run over the kids coming out of your school. If you want excellence and you want to make a difference, you're going to be staying a little bit later. And if you want to be an awesome teacher, I'm telling you right now, you get the day is over at 3 o'clock. If you're going to be leaving at 3:15 every day, don't even go into the career. Okay? If you want to do it the right way. If you want to do right by the students, you have to put the effort in. No pain, no gain. That's the bottom line. And you got a tremendous pension that will set you up for life. Okay? So, you know.
All right, Michelle, we'll go with one more formal question. Do we have one more?
There's a question about dealing with becoming jaded in the teaching profession. And if you have, change your views within the profession, how would it affect you?
I didn't quite catch that. What was that again?
So how do you deal with becoming jaded in the teaching profession? Or if you have changed your views within the profession, how has it affected you?
I guess it's burnout is what we're talking
You know, how would they handle it?
For teachers, for us supporting teachers, or for us personally?
about. And how would you help a teacher sitting as really sort of reach the end and really burned out?
They fall into that negative parking.
I think that it's difficult. I mean, you have to support all teachers wherever they're at, just like we try to support all students. But I think, and you have to continue that effort, but there comes a point in time where your effort doesn't really impact, and then I think you have to make a decision as to where you're going to go or how you're going to counsel out or discipline out or to take the next step, because those teachers that are sitting in front of the classrooms that are not performing, that are not doing what they need to do because they're jaded, there's a negative impact on student improvement, student results. And I think that you should give an ample amount of time to support those teachers, but at a point, a decision has to be made, and you have to think about creative ways to do best by children.
We recognize the fact that everybody is human, and therefore we have good days and bad days. However, if you present more bad days than good days, then we need to have a conversation. And there are specific programs within the New York City Department of Education that can work with you, such as PIP and PIP Plus. And those programs, yes, they're acronyms, but they're peer intervention programs. And if you're successful in that, hopefully whatever made you become jaded will alter your perspective. If not, they will work with you to transition into a new career.
I'm done.
Okay, I would just like to say a word about that. I don't think there is any such thing as burnout. I think you're either dedicated or you're not. My feeling is that you never stop giving it everything you have. Dr. G and I will probably be here when we're 85. I come in sometimes early in the morning if I don't have traffic on the expressway. And when I get here, Dr. G is here. When I leave, no matter what time, he's still here. Same with Dr. Reeks Rogers. My feeling is that, you know, teaching is the greatest career there is, because every day you can make a difference in the lives of so many people. You can't put a price tag on that. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on that. I'd like to thank these quality people and administrators for coming in and giving of their time. Thank you very much. They are all friends of St. Francis. And my hope for every one of you is that you get the opportunity, if you don't get an opportunity to work for each of these administrators, that you get an opportunity to work for people like them. I know it's late. I have coffee and cookies. Perhaps some of the best questions are asked informally, so if you can stay around for a few minutes and just, you know, interact with some of the students, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming.